All right, this session, when we had Fall Forum, we kind of called this open forum because we didn't know any better. But we have Johanna Denson as our leader of TAC, and she kind of said, you know, a cool name for this really is called Jigsaw. But it is an open forum. We have some topics that we have solicited our attendees and our board of directors and our region directors about what's top of mind for you guys. So what we're going to do today is bring up a topic. We may have a person who is very knowledgeable on that topic come up and talk for 5 or 6 minutes, get some feedback from you guys. And then we also have some standalone topics that I'll just bring up. And then we have some assistants. Debbie Fox is in the back of the room, and David Kirkendall, 2 of our officers. So if you have a comment or a question, or you want something restated, they will bring the mic to you and you'll speak, and then we'll have some back and forth, not just between me and you, but between members of the audience. All right, so our first one is going to be the topic that we're not sure how we feel about it. It's the NFT NIL topic, and so many of us feel like they're synonyms. And the more you read about it and the more you listen about it, you realize there probably is a great difference between the two. So a couple of weeks ago at Region 5, Shane Hildreth from Vipe Media did a short presentation on those two acronyms. And there was some learning taking place. So today's not an idea where we're going to say this is good or this is bad, or it's going to happen or it's not. It's information for you. Because when you're armed with information, we're a little bit better ready to make a decision down the road somewhere. And probably Susan is right. The NIL topic is not going to be a if, probably it's going to be a when. Who knows if it'll be 2 years or 4 years or more, but it'll happen. NFTs, as you'll learn today, some of you already know, are quite different than an NIL. So Shane, come on up for a few minutes. Please welcome Shane Hildreth from Vipe Media to give us a few words of wisdom, and then he'll take some questions and we'll hear you guys talk back and forth.
Thank you. Thank you all. So NFT, how many people here know what an NFT is? NFT as a standalone is different than an NIL. And back in June of 2021 is when NFTs started kind of coming around. What is it? What are they? And so as CEO of Vipe Media, part of my job is to innovate. So when COVID hit, we created a Huddle competitor because talking to a bunch of athletic directors, everybody said, hey, can somebody do something other than Huddle? We're not quite there yet, but we didn't want to spend our time doing nothing during COVID. Well, when NFTs came around, I started doing some research on it to figure out what it is, and we created a little division called Varsity Chips, where we take highlights and turn them into an NFT, and then that's Rusty started getting a bunch of phone calls saying, what is this thing? So I appreciate Ray and Rusty for letting me come to the Region 5 meeting a couple weeks ago to discuss what an NFT is. So I'm going to read a definition of what an NFT is, and then we can talk layman terms about it. An NFT is a non-interchangeable unit of data stored on a blockchain, a form of digital ledger that can be sold and traded. Types of NFTs include photos, videos, audio files, artwork. The non-fungible token is a unit of data, right? And so the non-fungible means that they are not mutually interchangeable and cannot be replaced with another. Okay, what? Right? So basically, it is a way to digitize a photo, which is probably already digital. You put it on a blockchain, which you mint it. So I've got a picture of Harold Perkins. I'm going to put it into the blockchain. I'm going to mint 1,000 of them, and then I'm going to go sell them. There's only 1,000 that exist. So if Rusty buys number 7 of Harold Perkins, he owns number 7. We produce magazines. This is our Houston citywide football magazine that we do every year. We make 25,000 of these. It's a finite number. The NFT is the same way. The difference is that there is a blockchain that tells everybody that you own number 7, or that there's only 1,000 of these being made. It's a smart contract that solidifies that there's only so many being made. A lot of people think that in about 5 years, you're no longer going to need to go through a title company because your house title will be put into a blockchain, and if you sell it, then everybody can go to the blockchain and see that Shane Hildreth sold his house to Joe Smith for X amount. There's a lot of different ways that people think these NFTs are going. You've got, casinos looking at putting NFT tokens out there, so if you buy one, you get free hotel rooms, and there's a tangible way to do it. You've got sports teams looking to sell NFTs that come with season ticket packages. So it's just a way to digitize a piece of information that everybody knows that you own it. So when we put these out, and then Jamie Harrison of the UIL calls me and Rusty calls, and we go through it, at the end of the day, if somebody creates an NFT of a high school player today in the state of Texas, it is no different than Vipe or Dave Campbell's or the Dallas Morning News taking a picture of a kid at a game and putting it on their website. And then that article that they put it on is sponsored by Academy Sports and Outdoors, right? So this magazine that we put out is presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. The company that is putting out the NFTs or putting out the live streams or putting out magazines or putting high school kids on social media, none of them are not for profit, right? Everybody's monetizing it through advertising or subscriptions. An NFT today in the state of Texas, it's the same way. It's just another way for a company to package a highlight and monetize it in a different way. I got quoted by a company called The Boardroom, which is a national company owned by Kevin Durant, who said, could an NFT become an NIL situation? My response was, sure, I guess in a state where high school kids could monetize their NIL, I guess they could, but in states like Texas, you can't. They turned that into saying, yes, NFTs can become NIL. But as long as Texas legislature stays the way it is, and I know Dr. Charles and Susan was saying NIL's coming, as Vite Media, we have to stay in the middle and not mention it, but in this group, we are not for NIL for high school kids. As a father of a 14-year-old daughter who wants to play tennis, the last thing I need her worried about is an agent. I need her worried about her serve right now. And I think just with everything going on with college, we knew that it was going to open up Pandora's box and blur the line between professional and amateur. And here we are, right? It's coming up for discussion. But an NFT by itself is not NIL. It could become, if somebody took this magazine who's on the cover of it and signed it and sold it, it's the same thing. I think I hit everything. So if you go Google NFT, the big marketplace is called OpenSea, and you're going to see artwork like Bored Apes selling for millions of dollars. I don't know why, but they are. And so there's a bunch of people getting into the NFT business on the artwork right now. There's a bunch of musicians who are pulling their masters and not giving it to a record label and selling it as an NFT. The great thing about an NFT for an artist is that when it sells, you make money, but if I buy one and then I sell it to somebody else, there's a royalty that follows that artwork. So the artist is always making money every time it sells, and that's one of the unique things that artists and musicians are looking at this NFT project. Any questions?
If let's say a year and a half from now, legislative, they change and they say that kids can make money off their name, image, and likeness, I know that y'all probably thought about that. What would you be, what would be Vipe's position on that? Would you be trying to enter that game and utilizing things like NFTs to work into that space? Because those kids then would be demanding probably money for your use of their image, et cetera.
Yeah, so if NIL becomes legal in the state of Texas for high school kids, I think like Adam Hochfelder, who runs Dave Campbell's, who's a friend of mine, he and I are going to have to get together because this is going to fundamentally change all coverage of high school sports. I mean, we're going to be calling y'all and saying, okay, UIL probably needs to set up a league contract like Major League Baseball and the NFL, where we're signing contracts with y'all to be able to cover, and then y'all are putting language into registration through Rank 1 or whoever that says, okay, if you're going to play at Cy Falls, because that's where I went, going to play at Cy Falls, you have to give up your NIL rights when you're in uniform on the field. Now, anything outside of that, so like in the state of Texas right now for colleges, if a kid plays at the University of Texas, he cannot wear UT logos in NIL. Now, LSU and all the other SEC states, you can. It's not supposed to help in recruiting, but I mean, come on. If you want to go to UT or A&M and LSU and Alabama say you can wear your uniform, you're going to make more money from Nike if you're wearing an Alabama uniform than you are wearing an Aggie uniform. So it is helping in recruiting. So to the point of us making NFTs right now, it's going to fundamentally change it. We probably wouldn't be able to do it because there's not much money in it. And if I got to start paying players, it doesn't make sense. But again, that's the Varsity Chips NFT thing is a little fun thing we're doing. Vite Media, covering high school sports in 2007 in the state of Texas. I'm worried what that's going to do to us, what it's going to do to Dave Campbell's, what is it going to do to live streaming, NFHS, us, Texan Live. I mean, what I love about Texas, and I went to the Denver athletic director national meeting, and when ADs outside of Texas hear that you're from Texas, we have the best coaches, we have the best facilities, we have incredible athletes, incredible administrators. Everybody wants to do what Texas is doing. So I'm worried that if Texas does pass the NIL, it's going to be a waterfall effect. So, I mean, it's going to fundamentally change everything. There's going to be a lot of conversations that need to be had because what my 2 cents would be is if the state of Texas and the UIL, I know it's a law, but the UIL and all of us are going to have to figure out a way so that it is not as messy as what the NCAA has done, right? And just police it better.
Let me ask one.
Please.
So this is very much a layman's question, but so when I'm wrong, correct me, please do. Whether it's Vite Media or Varsity Chips in this case, can a current high school athlete benefit from NFTs being sold through Varsity Chips? Is that a decent question?
That is a decent question. No, because we own them. So we own the blockchain, we own the chips, so we go take a photo of Harold Perkins and we live stream the game, and we're taking that content and making an NFT. We own it. So just like when we put a highlight video out there for Derek, what Sun and Ski Sports we do, we go shoot game footage and then we put it out on social media presented by Sun and Ski. It's the same footage, we're just packaging it up differently and then selling it in a cool, hip way that the kids like.
So what little I've read, how does, back to the high school athlete again, you read a little bit where a high school athlete could benefit upon graduation for NFTs being sold. And I could have said that entirely wrong, but is that a relevant question also?
So anybody can create their own NFTs. We're not doing anything that's anybody right now. You could do a doodle on a piece of paper, go to OpenSea, scan that doodle, turn it into a JPEG, go to OpenSea, start a crypto wallet, turn it into an NFT, and sell it. My 12-year-old could do it, right? I mean, anybody can do that right now. This is not, even Rusty could do it. So there's the problem right now with NFTs, and I mean, I haven't really thought about this before, but there's really nothing stopping a high school kid right now from starting up a crypto wallet in some random name and creating an artwork and selling it. It's out there.
Well, our time's about up. We have other topics to talk about. First of all, I'll give one more opportunity come up, then we'll thank Shane for being here, and we'll get on to our next topic. Anybody else before we let him sit down? That's awesome. Thank you, Shane, for being here. We
Oh,
appreciate you.
we got a hand. So if it becomes legal, so if NIL gets approved, then they're basically what somebody would have to do, because this is happening in college. So Candy.com is cutting deals with collegiate athletes right now. They will pay them up front for the rights to use them. They will go photograph them. They will create an NFT. And then when it sells, the athlete will get a 10% royalty on the sales. So that's kind of how that NFT process is working for musicians, for current collegiate and professional. So Tom Brady's got one called Autograph.io that he's doing with professional athletes, and then Candy.com is doing it with collegiate athletes right now.
That's one, okay.
Buy this? Why am I going to buy this token? So I can use it in my own magazine? Because at first I thought this was actually something I could hold, but it sounds like it's all digital.
It is all digital.
So I buy this so that I can use that picture on my product?
So that you own it, and then if you want to sell it later, yes. So
But I guess my question
asking me the why
why?
is hard to explain, because every project is a little bit different. So there's I forget his name, there's an artist, he does the dot artwork. He made 500 different pieces of art. He sold them as an NFT. After 6 months, you had the option to either give the NFT back to him and he would mail you the actual artwork, or if you wanted to keep the NFT, he would burn the original artwork, and the only living version of it would be your NFT.
I've gotten too old for this.
Yes. And so the funny thing is, the majority of the people said, I would like to keep the NFT. That makes sense. That makes no sense to me. In order to display your NFTs right now, you got to show people on your phone. Now, we've heard that Apple's working on an app for their Apple TV that you can showcase your NFTs, but again, it's digital. I asked the question to this 22-year-old kid that I commissioned to, okay, help me explain the NFTs. I can screenshot this and I can send it to anybody I want. What do I care if you own it? He was like, but I own it and I can sell it. I'm like, yeah, but anybody can see it. Like, what's the point? If it's hanging in my house, I can insure it. If my house burns down, it's like, it's got value, it's tangible. Unfortunately, our world apparently is turning into digital. I mean, I don't even want to get into the metaverse about what Facebook's doing, and people are selling $1 million homes next to Snoop Dogg's fake house in the metaverse. That's a whole nother meeting. But that's happening. Yeah, so it's the tangible, real-world way that makes sense to me is the Metallica Napster issue, right? We all had Napster, now we've all got Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music. We now have to pay for the rights for the music. We used to get it for free, and Metallica said, no, that's our content. This is a way for artists and musicians to say, hold on, that's our content, that's on the blockchain, I can sell pieces, and these people own this content. So anytime it's played, this is who's going to monetize from it, and it's locked in a smart contract. So it can't be moved, it can't be stolen, it can't be hacked.
Let's all thank Shane for being here, having the courage.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. So for people that are my age, and there's a few of those in here, if you think about a limited edition baseball card, say we're 700 of them made, and this is just a digital baseball card of somebody doing a skill or a picture or a painting. So just consider it like that. All right, next topic, and we're only going to have time for a few more because that was pretty important for us to do because that's coming and we need to learn about that. I want to invite Mike Bass up. Mike Bass chairs, who's the co-chair of our officials committee. We've got some folks that are on the SOC committee, and they're heavily involved with THS-ADA's officials committee and also the SOC committee and things that are happening coming down the road. Mike's going to give you a brief 5-minute update on what their committee meeting looked like and what's on the horizon for them.
Thanks, sir. All right, folks. Again, I grew up with 8-track tapes, so hearing all that stuff, it just blows my mind away. Some of you folks probably don't know what an 8-track tape is, but it was good stuff back in the day, unless the song split during and had to go to the other side. So anyway, our official committee is made up of 8 regional directors, and it's also made up of 4 at-large and 3 SOC committee members. And so I'm going to encourage you to reach out to them real quick. Let me just give you their names. That way you know who your committee member is in your region. Region 1 is J.J. Johnson of Lubbock ISD. Region 2 is Del Van Cox of Abilene ISD. Region 3 is Steve Kiesler of Carroll ISD. Region 4 is J.J. Calderon of Sirocco ISD. I'm Region 5 of Alvin ISD. Region 6 is Jonathan Lamb of Bryan ISD. Leander ISD. Region 7 is Lorena Lopez of McAllen ISD. Region 8 is Melanie Henson of Southwest ISD. Our at-large members are Derek Rush of Bryan ISD, Suzette Areola of East Central ISD, Jay Zeller of Robinson ISD, and Kevin Pitts, who's our new member of Richardson ISD. And then you heard earlier about the SOC committee. We have 3 SOC members that are on it. We have Russ Reeves. Russ Reeves is with Rockwall ISD. We have Bobby Cruz of United ISD and Andre Walker of Houston ISD. And I will tell you, it's important as an AD that you reach out to the committee. If you have concerns or even praises about what's going on with the Official Association, reach out and contact your member. And then when we set our meetings up, we meet about 4 times a year. We try to meet prior to the fall legislative council meeting, the fall SOC meeting, the spring SOC meeting, and then the summer legislative UIL legislative meeting. A couple things that Dr. Elser brought up that we discussed was on officials' pay. Going from the 45-day, most people nowadays, most districts, it seems like across state Texas, are paying through some type of online system. And so instead of waiting 45 days to pay the officials, it was brought to our attention by the association, PTASO. We sat down with our committee, made the decision to maybe get it down to 30 days, because if you are an AD that pays finances with the UIL, for the UIL basketball tournaments, you've got 30 days to make that payment. So we said if we can do it for the UIL, we ought to be able to do it for TASO. We recommended to the SOC committee. The SOC committee took it to standing committee on athletics, and then it was approved. And the other thing was game day administrators. We meet with our officials also. We invite them to those meetings to kind of get their perspective, their pros and their cons, and it allows us to build a good relationship. And that's what we did with the game day administrators. And that's one of the things that we're working from our area along with SOC to create a training for game day administrators with the UIL. So again, great things come from it. Back in 2019 was the last time that the Official Association received a raise. It was a $5 raise. I think caught pretty much everybody off guard. And so in 2020, the Standing Committee of Athletics, during their fall legislative council meeting, said we need to come up with a study and proposal for a possible schedule of pay increases for officials. And so that's been our really biggest #1 thing we've been working on since 2020. And, they have their ideas, TASO has their ideas on what they want, and then we have our ideas. And so we've been meeting for about 8 meetings now, coming up with an idea of a plan. And so I'm not going to release it to you today. We had a great meeting yesterday for about 2 hours. We were only planning on meeting for about an hour. And it was just such a great, impactful meeting that we feel like we got a pretty good plan that we want to present to the SOC committee and to the UIL. And then if the UIL is good with it, I know that we're working with Dr. Jamie Harrison. He has a plan as well. And to be able to come back and present something to the Legislative Council and eventually get it approved. Because the one thing we don't want to do is 5 years from now talking about paying officials again. I mean, it seems like that comes up all the time. So our goal is to come up with a game plan and then do something over 10 years. And it's something that will benefit TASO officials, which also will benefit us. Because if you listen to TASO officials, they say the #1 thing they're fighting right now is shortages. I mean, how many folks in here only had 2 officials at a game for soccer? We had listen to some of our ADs yesterday, they had 1 official. I won't tell you what region, but you'll know the region when I talk about it if you're in the region where the local chapters told them this: we're going to consider you high-level games, mid-level, low level. If it's at a high level game, we're going to send you 3 officials. If we think your game is a mid level, we're going to send you 2. And if we think you're a low level, we're going to send you 1 official. And so they're saying we can combat that by giving them a pay increase. Well, I'm going to tell you, that's a story on a different day. I don't think I have enough time for that. But the point is, we've got to work with them to help recruit officials. I will tell that Melanie Henson over in Region 8, they have a class they offer. We're encouraging at all the regional meetings to discuss about going out recruiting. Maybe former student athletes are going to graduate, go off to college, but aren't going to be scholarship athletes, but want to stay involved in athletics. Maybe that parent that has been that great supporter of officials during the game and their daughters graduated, you maybe encourage them to go become an official. So our committee is to be the liaison between TASA and with the ADs and athletics and coaches to create that relationship and to make it a little bit better. For a while, it was kind of divided. I think we're getting closer, but anytime you start talking about money, it gets everybody excited.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Take care. God bless you.
All ready to go home. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, sir. We've got about 9 minutes left before Rusty does our closing, so I picked 2 of the remaining topics. One is important. The second one is really, really important, but it's more of a feel-good thing. Talk a little bit about bond elections coming up. By a show of hands, how many of you have upcoming May or next fall bond elections? There's still quite a few in here. Either the people who raise their hand or others who have had success or failures. We know that you can't put athletic facilities in with the rest of the bond. Okay, that's a change that happened several years ago. But there's some people who really feel like that should be changed. What I'm interested in knowing from you is, are any things happening locally in your districts with your boards or any of your state representatives and senators that are trying to get things organized where that rule, that law could be changed? It's harder and harder to get an athletic bond passed when it stands alone by itself. Anybody? Give you tired head? Well, we'll move forward. I know from talking to a lot of you and working with quite a few when I was an AD, it has become a really neat thing to involve in special needs students in your athletic program. So what I want is a few feel-good stories about things that either you do as a director in a district or some of your coaches do to involve those kids in your program. So anybody who wants to go, we'll bring the mic over to you and you can share. And that'll be our last topic today.
So we work very closely with the local Y. They have a Miracle League. Matter of fact, they just had an international competition there in our area, and a lot of our sports teams will volunteer there. One of the things that we had at our regional meeting, though, and it was really great, one of the school districts in our Houston area, Spring Branch ISD, is doing the unified sports, which involves the pairing of special needs students with their athletes, and they're actually having organized competitions in multiple sports. And so we brought the principal who really started that in the district out to our regional meeting, and she kind of described how they got that program started. So I know several of us in the Houston area are talking about starting that initiative in our own school districts to maybe have regular competition amongst us in these sports. So we're looking forward to expanding unified sports in Cy-Fair ISD.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Ray. Anybody else want to share a quick story or thing you're doing in your district? All right, as Rusty comes up, I'll share with you that we saw Susan in her red pants today. So in lieu of having lanyards and badges or state conference, if you wear red pants, you get in free. Rusty, come on up.